What's going on, everyone? So one of the real prizes this upcoming offseason was the Lakers' move to trade up into the draft, which Rob Pelinka said himself recently that they were very aggressive in moving up from 55th to 36th in order to land Adou Thiero. And this is a guy that could solve a lot of the Lakers' problems for now and the future, more so probably the future. Curious to see what he'll be as soon as this season. We'll dive into that here in a little bit. But Adou Thiero is a guy that has the size, the athleticism, the defensive prowess. Like, he's looked at as one of the better defensive prospects coming out of this draft. He was as high as like a lottery pick on many draft boards heading into the year of the draft. And then he ended up dealing with some injuries and stuff. And, his age, we've seen guys that, are slightly older. I mean, he's not like, Dalton Connect, who was like 23 when we drafted him, right? He's 21. But we've seen, like, if you're not like 18, 19, that could affect your draft slot. And then also add in the fact that he's coming off of injury. We've seen guys like, Cam Whitmore, guys like that have really, fell in the draft because of that. I mean, even Dalton Connect going from as high as like a top 5 pick all the way to 17th for the Lakers. So, Lakers landing Adou Thiero was great as far as like getting a piece that we need for now and the future, getting a guy that can come in, slot in at either forward spot for you because he has the size, he has the strength, he has the athleticism. He also has some guard handling abilities, right? He was shorter. This is a guy that went through a growth spurt, which is part of the reasons why there's questions about his shooting, because his hands grew, like everything grew, so he's having to adjust to, that growth in size. But this is a guy that, even if you watched him in college, right, that could, take guys off the dribble, apply rim pressure on either side, a guy that could create a little bit for himself, create a little bit for others. So he's had like on-ball responsibilities, scoring responsibilities, kind of lockdown defensive responsibilities. All of that should be good to kind of help translate as we progress. I mean, look at a guy, a little more extreme, but like an Anthony Davis. Right, Anthony Davis was a point guard growing up and, making plays out there. And then he had just this growth spurt to, be the 7 or 6'10 guy, 6'11 guy that he became. But you saw a lot of that translate. But it allowed him to just be this defensive menace and this defensive monster because, he had kind of that like IQ and vision as a guard, as well as, playing all these spots as he's continuing to grow. And then the growth spurt, which he had to adjust to. Adou Thiero, I kind of look a lot in the same lines. Like, he started out as like what would have been a guard and then transitioned and grew into, what is now a small forward, power forward, but he still is going to have those understandings of, on-ball defense and defending opposing guards and reading passing lanes and things like that. I think it's something that could really be beneficial to a guy like an Adou Thiero. And one of the guys that Rob Pelinka recently linked him to is OG Anunoby. Now, I don't hate the comparison. Obviously, like, OG is like the premier kind of top-end 3-and-D guy. If Adou Thiero can be anything close to an OG Anunoby, I mean, that would be just massive for the Lakers. Imagine how good OG would be alongside like Luka and LeBron and guys like that. I mean, that's exactly what this team needs, right? So if he could be anything close to that, that would be fantastic. Obviously, Adou Thiero, he's got to work on his three-point shooting. Got to be a better shooter. But if he can kind of get that and translate that, which I do believe he will, right? Because again, he's had to go through these changes the last 2 years or whatever that he's adjusting to. So I do think that he'll kind of figure that out. And the Lakers are going to put all the time, effort, money, energy into that. They've revamped, their training staff and medical team and all these things. So they're going to try to get him as right as possible. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see him in Summer League, but he is expected to be ready for training camp. And he's a guy that is, could immediately have an impact and be a guy that I don't think is going to be like a starter or like heavy minutes off the bench in year one, unless he's just like that clamps, which would be amazing. Even if he could just be like Jared Vanderbilt this year, just like defensive versatility in like 15 minutes of action. You know how badly this Lakers team could use another Jared Vanderbilt, even with the offensive ailments and all, right? Like, we could desperately just the athleticism, the versatility on the defense side of things. Lakers are going to have enough offensively. It's the defensive side of the ball that the Lakers really need to kind of have those upgrades. Imagine having Jared Vanderbilt, and if Adou Thiero can be anything close to Jared Vanderbilt defensively, even just out there patrolling the wings and being able to switch and be versatile. I mean, that alone could solve a lot of the Lakers' issues. And then as time progresses, hopefully both guys can kind of develop a three-point shot. We'll see what Jared Vanderbilt's able to do this year as he's been working on that all offseason. But Adou Thiero, I want to read what Rob Pelinka said, and then we'll dive more into it. But so Rob Pelinka said, yeah, that's a great name. Obviously, OG is an incredible player that's done so much in the league. I don't want to put pressure on anyone to become someone else, but that archetype is definitely it. He's got the 6'7" frame. He's incredibly explosive. I think he's a developing shooter. He's a lob catcher. I think on the other side of the ball, he's going to be an elite defender. He has all the tools there. So again, kind of talking and diving into the OG comparisons. And I like that Rob, says like, hey, we don't want to put pressure on the young man. We don't want to put pressure on the kid. But that archetype of player, which again, if he could be that would be unbelievable, right? If he could be, you're talking OG is one of the better get a stop, get a bucket guys in basketball. OG's a guy that can go get you 20 on any given night. OG's a guy that can go and defend the best player on the other team regardless of position, right? So to add a guy like an Adou Thiero, if he can be anything close to an OG Anunoby, could elevate this team for many, many years, right? But, again, he's got to, this is something that he's got to develop and grow into. He's got a long career ahead of him, ideally, right? But, even just last year, OG with his stat line, right? He put up 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 2.2 assists on 47.6% from the floor. This is OG, by the way, right? So, and then from three-point range, he shot 37.2% on 6.2 attempts. He's a career 37.5% three-point shooter, right? So again, if you're telling me, even best case scenario, OG Anunoby is, or Adou Thiero's OG Anunoby type, where he's giving you 6.3 attempts per game and shooting 37% from three-point range and has the occasional, 39% season, that's perfect, right? Even if he's like 37% from three-point range, but he's even the level of defender that OG is. Let's say he's not the offensive player that OG is. Let's just say he's, let's say 12-point-a-game guy, right? That's knocking down the occasional three, but can, make some plays for himself, create a little bit for himself, create a little bit for others, but is, the versatile defensive player that we see guys like OG could be. That would be, again, perfect for this. That's exactly the kind of archetype that you want slotted alongside a Luka Doncic long term. He's also the type of guy, even if you were to get another star or whatever, because you can slot him in at either forward spot. So let's say, just for argument's sake, say you go get a Giannis, right? Let's say you sign him. Well, you can have a guy in Adou Thiero slotted in at the 3, Giannis Antetokounmpo slotted in at the 4, have like an 8 and at the 5, and then a Luka at the point, and then, ideally, probably, if you're trading for Giannis, then you're probably trading Osiri, so, ideally kind of get that, kind of point of attack guy. Maybe Bronny develops into that. Just that athletic, versatile, defensive 3-and-D guard, right? Somebody that can slot in and defend, be that point of attack, defend opposing guards. Then you have a guy like an Adou Thiero that's able to defend multiple positions and defend, the best player on the other team on any given night. And, if you're playing against, an SGA, he's got the size, the athleticism, and the strength to kind of, just mask over him and just kind of give him some struggles, right? That's the ideal scenario in the case for, Adou Thiero. Again, a guy 6'7", right, that can slot into either spot. Even at 6'7", you could even slot him if he develops a three-point shot, you could even slot him in at the 2 on occasion, right? So, let's say an Arthur Kaluma, right, another 6'8", 6'9", versatile, athletic, defensive guy. Let's say he actually, does well in training camp coming up. He starts to come into his own. I have a couple of videos I want to do about Arthur Kaluma, because he's another guy I'm really high on as far as that, like, that OG archetype, right? Size, versatile defensive piece that could defend 1 through 5 for you, right? Like, let's say he does kind of come into his own and he kind of is that, right? That'd be perfect, right? Imagine if you could do something where you have, and I've even talked about this in videos where, imagine having like a Luka Doncic, right, with like an Adou Thiero shooting, say, 37% from three-point range, right? So you have Luka Doncic, Adou Thiero, let's say like an Arthur Kaluma, and then like another athletic, versatile wing, or in a perfect world, it's like a Giannis, right? Now you just have that athleticism, that defense, that switchability, that size. Like, I would love to have Luka with like 3 other like 6'7" to 6'9" athletic defensive 3-and-D wings, and then like a DeAndre Ayton as like your athletic lob threat, bucket getting center. I mean, it's very possible this season that we even see Luka and DeAndre Ayton being that kind of ideal duo and pairing. Like, I wouldn't be surprised that the best play in all of basketball is the Luka-Ayton connection. I mean, you're talking about Ayton, who was looked at as like a franchise center, and it wasn't even that long ago. I mean, he's in the NBA Finals, stuff like that. He's kind of checked out, but now he's motivated, he's hungry, he's going to be playing alongside Luka, so everything's going to be so much easier for him. Life is going to be so much easier for him. So, if that duo really becomes something for the Lakers, you might have your other guy alongside Luka Doncic, and now you're just trying to get the pieces that complement those two and kind of better surround those two with the defense. And guys like Adou Thiero are ideal. And Thiero, with his size, to be able to play either, essentially, like I said, 2 through 4, but I think more likely will be that 3 or 4 guy. But if he can just be that for you and be able to defend multiple positions and play multiple positions, and that way you can do like these creative defensive lineups and stuff. He's 21 years old. He just turned 21 in May, right? So he won't be 22 till we're in the, at the end of the playoffs, heading into the finals, right? So he's somebody that is very young, that has a lot of years and just, hopefully not a long development, but probably a year or two of quality development. A guy that you're probably going to spend, at least the next year or two kind of working on his offensive game, working on, things that you want to work on, but if he could just this season, if he could just be like a 10-minute a night guy, right? Like, show enough in training camp, show enough when he does get minutes, right? Doing the dirty work, making the hustle plays, defending at a high level, helping rebound. Like, that's another big thing about him. He's a very good rebounder too, which is something that the Lakers need. With his size and his ability to, help rebound it and do all the things that he theoretically can for this Lakers team, from being a rebounder and a shot maker and a scorer and all that stuff. I mean, Adou Thiero could end up being kind of that third guy for you at some point, potentially. I mean, you look at an OG, he's not, you don't really look at him as like your ideal, like, number 2 guy, but like, if he's your third guy, you're probably one of the best teams in the league, right? That's what I think Adou Thiero could potentially be, right? Kind of that guy where it's like, hey, you have, Luka, Ayton, and Adou Thiero, you're probably in contention for a championship every single season, right? You probably win multiple championships every single season, just because you now have those type of archetypes that have success year in and year out. You got that big physical, bucket-getting, playmaking point guard. You have that athletic, versatile center. Now you have that athletic, versatile wing that can do multiple things. Now you're just kind of filling in the blanks, filling in the spots year after year after year after year, right? And you look at, kind of what Adou Thiero did, right? Like I said, in college, shooting the 3 ball, last season was 25.6% on 1.6 attempts, which is not great by any stretch of the imagination. But again, context matters. Him having the growth spurt, him having, to basically slot in and play. Because you got to think, he was listed as a guard, right? A guard, not a 6'7" forward. He was listed as a guard. I mean, you look at his years in Kentucky, he was a guard, right? And then even in Arkansas, he was a, he again was listed again as a guard, because it's what he kind of came in as, and then had the growth and then had that spike up. So, he's a guy that, again, can create a little bit for himself. Last year on 8 attempts, shot 60.1% from 2-point range, had an EFG of 56.7%. Obviously, these are college numbers, so it's college and NBA doesn't always necessarily translate, but these are good signs. 6 rebounds a game, 2 assists, 1.6 steals, a block, and 15.1 points per game, right? If he could just be that, right? I mean, obviously not shooting 29% from three-point range, right? But if he could just be, like I said, 36, 37% from three-point range, give us like 15 points a game, defend the best player on the other team, give us 6 rebounds a night, give us, 1.5 to 2 steals a game, maybe a block a game, and just be that versatile all-around player, Lakers got potentially the steal of the draft. But as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.